Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. And as you can see, we have Vice President Miller and Director Pendergraft, and I'm obviously here as well. Director Carrion and Director Wiggins are not with us tonight. If you could please rise so we can do our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We will move on to agenda item 2.01, which is action to approve the regular meeting agenda. May I please have a motion to approve agenda item 2.01 and action to approve the regular meeting agenda?
I move to approve our regular meeting agenda.
I second. Vice President Miller motion and Director Pendergraft seconded. Thank you. Do we have any discussion? And we'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. The approval of agenda item 2.01, action to approve the regular meeting agenda, passes 3-0. And that brings us to the public comment portion of our evening. If you've joined us before, you've heard this rundown before, but I'm going to just refresh everybody's memory so we're all on the same page. So each person will be given 3 minutes to comment, and a maximum of 20 minutes per any one topic will be allowed. Speakers whose comments are less than 3 minutes in length may not defer the remaining time to others. If there are multiple speakers on one topic, speakers may be limited to points of view not yet expressed. Any person wishing his or her comment retained as part of the permanent record may submit a prepared statement to the board secretary prior to the oral presentation. The president may interrupt or terminate an individual statement when it is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Comments and concerns related to district personnel will not be heard in public, but rather should be directed through the complaints concerning school personnel or programs such as policy 4220. Formal presentations must be scheduled with the superintendent in writing no later than Tuesday noon, 1 week preceding the regular meeting, and per board procedure, we will not answer or respond to any questions posed by a speaker. So tonight, I'd like to start with Ryan Rigby.
Thank you. As back to school time has approached, it is shocking, frustrating, and disturbing that Tahoma has chosen to not address the issues at elementary and middle schools, nor district portables, and will be returning students to schools with unlocked entrances and portables. The district has communicated that office staff are trained to quickly address intruder situations. However, if front office staff has identified an intruder, that person is already in the building with open access to continue through the remainder of the school. The Department of Homeland Security has confirmed that physical security measures in school districts are both effective preventative and protective actions that can, quote, mitigate threat and reduce the amount of harm inflicted if incidents occur, and encourages the K-12 community to be forward-thinking when it comes to security, end quote. Please do not wait for an active shooter or intruder situation to occur in Tahoma. Please do not wait for Tahoma students or staff lives to be lost as a result. The time to act is now. Again, as a voice for many parents, I urge the district to address the following. Create policy requiring all exterior doors to be locked. Install lock buzz entry at all schools. Provide a safe viewing source for teachers to view the outside of their portable door, and install keypad entry systems for every portable door. The Evolve report indicated how non-compliance to locked door policy and the sense of non-urgency to address safety concerns were contributing factors in the elementary massacre for which those school officials and staff will be forever liable. The Tahoma School District has not even secured bids for buzz-in locked entry, which displays a sense of non-urgency in addressing this issue. If the district references difficulty in funding these necessary one-time security investments, please consider the following. The general unassigned fund balance is over $24 million. According to the district's website, this use may be more of a last approach, but the money is there and is well suited for one-time investments. Additionally, the district wants to spend down that balance from 24 to 10 to 12% of the operating budget. I've seen estimates anywhere from $2 to $20K for locked buzz entry. While it's not in the prior bid, let's use that high price point. For the 8 schools in need here in our district, that would be $160,000, a small percentage of the $24 million fund balance. For a quoted $5K estimate for keypad entry, again, overestimating the number of portables at 75, the total would be $375,000. Again, a small percentage of the fund's balance. Also, Also a consideration is that the current levy collection with increased home values will likely bring in more revenue than projected, thereby recouping these one-time security investments. Therefore, it seems to not be an issue of procuring funds, but rather an issue of no desire to use the funds for these security reasons. These are our children who will be attending Tahoma schools. If you choose not to address these vulnerabilities, will you look my children in the eyes and explain to them why they are not worth simply locking a door? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for this.
Hi, I'm Katie Cooper. I have 2 children at Rock Creek and 1 at Lake Wilderness. So this is important to me across the district. I agree with Rainey. I want locked buzz entry to the schools. I think there should be higher fences, but if we could get locked doors, that is a benefit. I think each classroom should have an external entrance. They should be locked and they should have a waterproof wireless doorbell. A lot of the teachers have this on their wish list. It shouldn't be something teachers should have to buy out of their own pocket. If the schools are going to be locked, it should just be installed across the board. I want the school district to have better and more open communication so that parents can make decisions for themselves about their child's safety. The incident with the shooter communication that went out this last spring for Rock Creek was very minimal, and the district making choices and the school making choices for the parents. We should be able to know what the situation is so that we can make our own call. I know that there's certain things that can't be said, but there's a lot more that could have been shared that was not. The safety and child abuse prevention policies should also be shared annually and be easily accessible on the website, which I've asked for multiple times, and I have not been directed to where that is. And in fact, the principal of Rock Creek told me that they don't want to share those policies because a parent could be the subject or a suspect for an incident, so they don't want to share that publicly. But more often not, it's a student that's already gone through the school and knows the policies and procedures. So if they're good policies and procedures, shouldn't matter who knows them, and it should be a safety factor, knowing that there are publicly in the district for the schools and students and parents, knowing that those policies and procedures are in place, communicated, and known about. The fact that I've talked to multiple parents about them, they have no idea what the policies are. So if the school district wants us to trust our precious children with the schools, I want to know what those are, because I've heard a lot of alarming things this past year, and it honestly makes me rethink sending my kids to Tahoma School District. Thank you.
My name is Brianna Martinez, and I'm a parent of 2 students at Rock Creek. I'm here to ask you to improve the safety infrastructure of the elementary and middle schools as soon as possible. This spring, there was a threat against Rock Creek. Parents, teachers, and staff were told that it was a non-credible threat against the staff member. Uncomfortable with seeing police cars near a drop-off. I contacted multiple people at the school, excuse me, and the district was told they didn't know what the threat was and that everything was fine. 1 week later, the police report was released from a parent who requested it from the police, and we discovered it was a shooting threat. This pastor was quoted as wanting to shoot up the school, and they analyzed the Sandy Hook shooter and believes that his ghost lives in her body. I personally confirmed with many teachers and staff that they had not been told anything other than what the parents were told until after the police report had been spread around the school. They were listening because the parents weren't. Principal Thomas confirmed to me that he was aware that morning of the threat, that that's what it was about. Even after the police report had been circulated, the district messaging still didn't say that it was a shooting threat. I observed the classroom doors were open to the bus lane in 169 for a week after the threat. Doors are often open and unlocked. Teachers and staff are our eyes and ears, and at the bare minimum, they should have been their eyes in the situation, and safety protocols should have been proactively revisited to make sure they're being followed. That did not happen until after a week later. The school district has a responsibility to be transparent, and we should have been disclosed to the parents that it was a shooting threat. We need to decide what's best for our kids, not right what's taken away from us. So now that my trust of the school administrators and the district decision makers has been broken, all that I can do as a parent is to make sure that the school is as safe as can be. School shootings are far too common in this country, and make sure it shows that having a locked front door with video and the capability of visiting guests after they've been identified helps prevent these types of tragedies. Portables need to be able to be locked, and I think that the plastic bags covering the back of the fence at Rock Creek seem like more of a safety hazard than help. We as a district and community have the resources to equip our elementary and middle schools with the same safety measures that the high school already has. I implore you to please install them as soon as possible. We have a second shooting threat this spring in the whole school district. Parents and teachers have been writing, speaking, and emailing for months about this with no response and what seems like no progress made. And I don't understand why, and I'm wondering what Tahoma is waiting for. And it's our duty to do everything we can to keep our kids safe at school. There is nothing that my kids can learn in school that is more important than coming home safe at the end of the day. I do not want Tahoma to be the next Tahoma, Sandy Hook, or Uvalde, or Columbine. The list goes on and on. Please, let's be proactive and get the basic safety infrastructure in place for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. As we all know, crime is unfortunately on the rise, not just in large cities nearby, but in our community. It's not hyperbole. It's real, it's been recognized and documented by the city leadership. As a community, we have been asked to do our part, right? Lock our doors to our homes, close garage doors, lock our car doors, leave outdoor lights on at night. And some of you have joined various video doorbell networks and share suspicious activity amongst each other. Some of those videos are kind of interesting to watch. But please, we hear this all the time, right? See something, say something, right? So recently a member of our community did see something around our school security, and they said something to our school and town leadership. The answer was a discussion that basically boiled down to, we're looking into it. We have a consultant we're having a consultant develop a risk assessment. Solutions could be really expensive, and we haven't allocated that kind of money in our current budget. But thank you for bringing this up. Oh, and by the way, please don't vocalize this, because it could give a bad actor a reason to do something bad here. Inferring almost that it may even be something you can be personally responsible for. Wow. Okay, see something, say something? Sounds more like see something, shut up. Blame the whistleblowers finally hit Maple Valley. But when the problem involves the physical and direct safety of the kids at the home school district, it just makes me extremely upset. When is bureaucracy more important than action? When does the cost even begin to factor in? What is the price of a child? It's priceless. Oh, but that being said, a recent study determined it takes about $300,000 to raise a single child to the age of 17. That seems pretty odd that they put a number on that. What these accountants don't state is there is no cost number that even comes close to the true value of that child. I would argue that if you were to ask any mother or father in this room or in this district, they would stop at nothing to protect their children. Money becomes irrelevant, no matter how much you have or how much you don't have. When dealing with an extremely fatal flaw in the security model of many of the schools in TSD, action is needed. The district's primary job is to teach in a safe environment. If Tahoma cares, secure our schools now. Thank you.
News travels fast. I'm standing here today floored to learn that Tahoma School District does not have locked doors or buzzed entry system in any of the schools but one. I thought my neighbor was kidding when he shared this with me. He wasn't. This is one of the top districts in the state. I moved to Maple Valley for this district specifically. And as I waved to my daughter as the bus departs our neighborhood on her very first day of kindergarten, the reality sets in. Is her classroom close to a door? Is it close to an entrance? Is it easily accessible by an intruder? These are questions no parent or guardian should wrestle with, and Maple Valley is not immune to such tragedy. I fully understand that adding a buzzed entry system costs money. I also understand that statistically speaking, a buzzer system is a massive deterrent in an active shooter's quest to cause harm, in his or her intent to murder innocent kids. Possibly my child, possibly yours. Hopefully this never happens, but hope is not a strategy. More than anything, I'm confused. This district has money, we just learned that. There is no better use of funds. Why are we waiting? Why are we pausing? This is not complex, but we're treating it like it is. Please prove me wrong. Our kids deserve more. Our community deserves more. Our teachers deserve more. And we all deserve action. Thank you.
I'm going to try to keep this really quick. My name is Tina Deshawn. I just wanted to express my gratitude to a couple of people really quick. First off, I want to thank Mike Hansen for his assistance and cooperation in my inquiries regarding the recent redistricting of the board member boundaries. I was curious how the whole process worked, and so I reached out to Mike, and he was really quick responding to me, providing me with the entity that you guys most people contract to do it. And then after speaking with, I even reached out to them and talked to the guy, and it was actually really fascinating how they do it. So I learned a lot about how they create the boundary maps. I was shocked at how much growth a couple of the districts have undergone, and really grateful that we are undergoing these new boundaries. And so thank you for that, Mike. I really appreciate the documents that you gave to me and the contact information. And then also really quick, just AJ Garcia, recently been in communications with him regarding Tahoma's technology and security. He graciously informed me that I had misinterpreted a statement by the Washington State Risk Management, or not Washington State, Washington Schools Risk Management Pool. And then he went a step further and offered to provide me with a cybersecurity audit that was recently done. And so after new school stuff gets taken care of, he said he's going to be in contact with me. So I just wanted to say thank you for both of you guys on that. So thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Next, we have Valerie Paganelli.
Good evening, Val Paganelli. I'm reflecting as I listen. I signed up to speak on agenda item 6.01, but upon reflection and hearing the other comments, I realize my comments are even more meaningful. I chose to run for school board 5 years ago and sat in your seat for a period of time, elected twice. One of my goals in that was to have open, honest, candid, ongoing, transparent, provocative, difficult, any kind of conversation whatsoever. And so I continue to believe that that is in this community's best interest, this district's best interest, if we can continue to welcome those conversations and not have them come to a point of frustration and misunderstanding and potential inaction relative to what's potentially possible. that ties into action item 6.01. As I sit as a community member watching agendas come forward, someone looking at agenda 6.01 would not know for whom the audience of that document is, what its intention is, whether you as a board have discussed its contents and its alignment with board goals and Tahoma Cares. It would not be transparent to the community being served and an understanding of what's embodied in it. As I look particularly at item number 5, as a board member, I would be asking questions. That section is elementary science instruction. The question is, please indicate whether your school district has each of the following in place regarding your elementary science instructional program by answering yes or no. I would wish for us as a district to be one where we answer yes in every item. Right now, we do not have a policy requiring a certain number of instructional minutes for science in grades K through 5. We do not have a policy to prevent elementary schools from being pulled out for learning support during what we do have as instructional time for science. And the district does not expect elementary science to be included as part of each elementary school's improvement plan. To me, that is a miss, and I would like to hear some discussion under agenda item 6.01 tonight, hopefully asking questions about what that means for us as a district. Similarly, item 5.01 would benefit from some explanation. Thank you.
That takes us to agenda item 4.01, which is our student board representative report. Hello, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Okay. So, over the past couple of weeks, as we start getting into the new school year, which starts on September 1st, especially at Tahoma High School, our leadership kids and Bear Crew kids have been working really hard to come set up the school. They come in to volunteer to help decorate. And currently, our Bear Crew leaders are going through training, and our Bear Crew leaders are the ones who help the incoming freshmen on their Pacific Bear Day, which is going to be on August 26th. So from 8 to 3, all the new freshmen that are coming into the high school are going to be able to come in, meet with upperclassmen, and then be able to get a tour of the school, get advice, get to walk around and then see where their new classes are, because just going into the high school can be scary. And having that support is really important, especially as the past couple of years have been really different and difficult for a lot of students. So that's an exciting thing. We had our Bear Days for seniors yesterday, and for juniors they were today. And then even at the middle schools, for Summit Trail Mapleview, students have a chance to go in, take their picture, meet with teachers, and then for the incoming 6th graders, they can go in. I believe for Summit Trail that's on August 31st. I'm not exactly sure when it is for Mapleview, but they also get the chance to do that. So the first day is again on September 1st. There's a lot of new activities and just events for students to be able to get to have that community feeling. On September 2nd is the first football game, and as the school year goes on, there's going to be a lot more events going on. Currently, our fall sports just started, I believe, yesterday. There's cross-country swim, a bunch of other things, so students are getting back into school even now, and hopefully it is a smooth school year and students are able to get into things relatively nicely with a nice community. And that is all for the report tonight.
Thank you so much. We're so excited that you're joining us on the dais for the first time, so welcome. That will bring us to the agenda item 5.01, which is action to approve the minutes of the July 19th, 2022 special board meeting. May I please have a motion to approve agenda item 5.01, action to approve the minutes of the July 19th, 2022 special board meeting?
I move to approve the July 19th special board meeting minutes.
Second. Vice President Miller motion and Director Pendergrass seconded. Thank you both. Do we have any discussion on this item? Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
The approval of agenda item 5.01, action to approve the minutes of the July 19th, 2022 special board meeting passes 3-0. And that brings us to the presentation, discussion, and action item portion of the evening. Just as a reminder, for those of you who may not have joined us before, we, as a board, we've agreed that we are going to use round robin to ensure that each member has equal opportunity to speak. We will keep our discussion length per agenda item to 20 minutes, which I'm going to monitor, and individual board members' discussion to 3 minutes per agenda item, which Mrs. Wheeler is going to monitor for us. Each director's time will begin with the first word they speak and will continue through the responses that are provided. So agenda item 6.01 is action to approve the basic education compliance. May I please have a motion to approve agenda item 6.01, action to approve the basic education action compliance.
I move to approve the basic education action compliance.
Vice President Miller motioned and Director Pendergraft seconded, and we are joined by Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, Don Wigley.
Thank you. Here to answer any questions that you have. You might recall that this is an annual report that is submitted to the State Board of Education. It's actually, and if you recall back to last year and ones in prior years, you might recall that they look very different each year. There are some components that are consistent throughout. For example, one that would be consistent each time is the verification of the 180-day school year and the minutes of instruction and things like that. There's other items that are different each year. Sometimes the state board, not because of necessarily a compliance piece, but because they're trying to just collect data to better understand the status of something across the districts, include a variety of questions that are more in that particular category. There's a number here that are in that category of just trying to kind of understand better some practices that are happening across our different school districts. The questions connected to school climate surveys, that's one that you're not going to see every single time. Some of the questions connected to academic, the pathways, as well as the science questions. Again, we're trying to understand kind of the landscape of what's happening across the state with school districts. What specific questions might I answer for you?
My wondering on this was, there's a lot of things that we respond to in the affirmative, there's some things that we don't, and I wonder if there are things that we just have on our list for things to tackle going forward, or if there are things that just are more kind of hard and fast, and this is something that we decided not to do. Are there things that are on our list to kind of tackle going forward that maybe were the questions to be the same a year from now, maybe they would be yes, or 2 years from now, whatever it might be? Are there some specifics you can share on that?
Sure. I pointed a couple out in the little cover memo because they had a special moment there that kind of flagged them up, and I didn't want those moments of seeing those flags of like, that's very interesting. One of those is connected to two of them actually connected to ethnic studies and the inclusion of that. That would be a recommended practice by the state, not a required practice. And I wanted to call out that piece connected to both what's happening in social studies at elementary as we work to begin to refresh that curriculum, which is out of date, and then engaging our high school to start around social studies team around adding an elective there. So I can't predict the exact outcome of what they will likely be bringing to you with the new course proposal, but that's certainly an area that I think we'll have some interest from students in. Oftentimes, a practice at the high school that would follow is to try to make sure that we're including our student voice as we're contemplating some different electives. That's definitely a place where we are a student-driven schedule, as you'll recall. So while we can come up with what we hope are the most wonderful classes, if that's not where the interest is at for students to actually take them, then you don't just run them and force students to go in. So those are two areas certainly that that had answers where partly I didn't feel like the answer was completely reflective in the survey. For the most part, it's these, you get to just push a radio button, and so it's not like you get to, so at the end I took opportunity to be able to explain a couple where I just didn't think it was quite reflective of where we were at. I'm just kind of glancing through at a couple of the others. There were a couple, like on the school climate where it was other survey recipients, where I thought, I don't know that that necessarily fits. The one piece I was thinking of there, and I don't think it's applicable for a survey, but I would say the other stakeholder that we try to really think about is our partnerships with both our businesses as well as our city. And I feel like we have relationship pieces that allow us, it's not a survey that we do there, but we have representatives, whether it's, Lori or Haley on the Economic Development Committee, or the Rotary, or our partnership with the city, where the question didn't really quite fit. I thought it was a no, but kind of a no with a qualifier, but I didn't elaborate on some of those particular ones.
Dr. Pendergraft? If you were to kind of summarize this year's report with last year's report, what would you say is like the biggest difference between the two in maybe what they're asking, or in some other way?
Yeah, last year's report, I would say some of the pieces were really more focused, connected to what are the recovery learning efforts and what's in place connected to that. It's not that we see that going away. There's just other ways of the state board and OSPI now getting that information as they're seeing flow through on money and understanding where we're actually spending some of those dollars. So I think that has shifted a little bit.
And my question is around the number of credits high school students can earn. So I know that that's a great source of pride for our district. Could you talk about why that is something that really sets Tahoma apart?
Yeah, before we made the transition to our new high school, one of the pieces from the State Board of Education back, and I won't get the exact year correctly, but about 2016-ish, the rules connected to, we call it Core 24, right? The expectations for the state connected to what required credit students have to have increased. And when we think about our mission statement with the together, all the tools and experiences, viable pathway for every individual student, and we think about our belief in Tahoma, that's not, it truly is trying to understand what the student wants for their own life, and it's not, as some systems like college is the only path. College is a fabulous path for some of our students. There are lots of other pathways too, and we made a commitment very early as we were really working on our student outcomes that then turned into our district outcomes, that turned into our future ready skills. So this is work that really began in the late 1990s. So then right around 2000 of, it's not just one pathway for students. And so when the state put on that requirement connected to Core 24, and we saw the options for our students just really shrinking down, and we were putting forth this amazing new opportunity with building, we said to ourselves, that's not going to work for our students, for our community. We actually want more options for our students, not fewer options for our students. As a result, we have an amazing facility, actually across a lot of our schools, but certainly an amazing high school where we have leading programs. One of the data points that I would definitely say is a point of pride is having 15 pathway options, which that was the first time that question was asked to this year. And those aren't skimpy little wimpy pathways. We have 50 pretty robust pathways. Certainly we can always improve them, but that's pretty amazing opportunity for our students. And so that's where that 8-period high school day really plays in, and the degree of opportunity that our students have that not everybody has. And it was interesting because we're certainly not the only high school in the state that has gone to 8 periods, but they were quick to say, okay, if that number isn't 6, we're going to flag it up, and you have to, yep, I really mean 8. report out. So it'll be interesting to see what that data collection provides across the whole of the state. And my prediction is that the number of periods that high school offers is directly related to the number of pathway opportunities, that there will be a direct correlation between those two numbers that the state is collecting there. So opportunities for students is what we're all about.
Well, and that tees me up for what I'm about to ask. Do our student reps have any questions?
Yes, I actually just had a quick question. So I know you touched on how, and I looked at this earlier, how at the end you mentioned, like, gave more detailed answers about the ethnic studies. Is there anything else that, like, this report kind of highlighted, like, any disparities that the district wants to address in terms of, like, things that might have been answered as no on here that the district is working to improve on or include in schools?
Sure. There were a couple of the ones connected to, I would say, connected to science in that data part, in that data collection component of it. And as we look at the idea of an actual policy, we don't have policy connected to the minutes of any content area at elementary. We do, however, provide really clear guidance to all of our students, all of our teachers and staff connected to a recommended use of time document that our elementary teachers and principals all follow, and that we in teaching and learning follow, connected to as we design curriculum and put resources into place to help to support our amazing teachers. So there's pieces that like that in the exact words, in the way that they say, we would write no, but I would say the intent of that. Do we have time dedicated to science learning for our students? Absolutely. So feel really good about that. The other one connected to science there that I'll just highlight one other. Pullouts are a very challenging piece connected to how to provide extra time and support for those students who need extra time and support in learning. And there's only so many hours in the day connected to providing support for students. And in doing that, we of course always have conversations with families, and they're involved in that decision making for their child, no matter what the service is. With RAP, with MAP, with intervention, with special education, all of those are in partnership with families as we try to make the very best, really challenging decisions for children. So that would be another one that I would highlight, and I'm just taking a really quick glance. I don't think that there was any others to spotlight, but if there's anything that you flagged for you, always happy to answer a question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so my question was kind of going back to the ethnic studies and incorporating that in. So when could we see like a change in like the curriculum? Like what's kind of the process for that?
Sure, great question. So two things that you will likely see happen right away. One, and I don't know exactly how the high school team will want to do it, if there could be some sort of kind of survey happening to understand student interest in a variety of ethnic studies sorts of classes, as the team plans to kind of zero in on, so what might an offering look like. When we think about a course proposal process, the teachers at the high school actually will meet in September in what they call management team. And that group meets, we talk, they look at what the needs are that students are expressing. We look at if there's any requirements like this particular one from the state to say, are we in the right balance or not? And then departments work on course proposals and bringing those forward. We have a number of meetings that happen, and then the board gets engaged in that with courses coming to them on 2 readings. One of those is typically in December, and then they approve in January. We also, every other year, and we did this piece last spring, have a group that comes together that involves students involves parents, involves staff from both the middle school, elementary, and even a couple of elementary representatives, even though it's really a secondary kind of process. And we will actually look at all of our courses from 6th all the way through 12th grade. And also, especially in the case of like our STEM electives, even in elementary classes, so we look at the whole array of classes across the whole breadth of our system. And we step back and we say to ourselves, are those what we really think we want? How are they working? Is that what we really want kind of going into the future? And that's this every other year process where we get to kind of step back and help with that wide variety of stakeholders to essentially kind of steer the ship a little bit. And that's usually we come to the board with the story of what the outcomes of that meeting are each time we do it. You're welcome.
Well, that is going to end our discussion, so I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
The approval of agenda item 6.01, action to approve the basic education action compliance, passes 3-0. And that brings us to the meeting management portion of our evening. So this section is going to move pretty quickly. We've reviewed these documents and we'll as part of our procedure as board directors, we're just going to be going through, moving pretty fast. So agenda item 7.01, action to approve our consent agenda. May I please have a motion to approve agenda item 7.01, action to approve our consent agenda?
I move to approve our consent agenda.
I second. Vice President Miller motioned and Director Pendergraft seconded. Thank you. I will call for the vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The approval of agenda item 7.01, action to approve our consent agenda, passes 3-0. Agenda item 7.02, action to approve the minutes of the July 26th, 2022 revised board meeting. May I please have a motion to approve agenda item 7.02, action to approve the minutes of the July 26th, 2022 revised board meeting?
I move to approve the minutes of the July 26th board meeting.
I second. Vice President Miller motioned and Director Pendergraft seconded. Thank you. Do we have any discussion? I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
The approval of agenda item 7.002, action to approve the minutes of the July 26th, 2022 revised board meeting, passes 3-0. Agenda item 7.03 is action to approve the certificated personnel report. May I please have a motion to approve agenda item 7.03, approving our certificated personnel report?
I move to approve our certificated personnel report as revised.
Second. Vice President Miller motioned and Director Pendergraft seconded. Do we have any discussion? I will call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
The approval of agenda item 7.03, approving our certificated personnel report as revised, passes 3-0. Agenda item 7.04 is action to approve our classified personnel report. May I please have a motion to approve agenda item 7.04, approving our classified personnel report?
I move to approve our classified personnel report as revised.
A second. That was good suspense building. Vice President Miller motioned and Director Pendergraft seconded. Do we have any discussion? I will call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
The approval of agenda item 7.04, approving our classified personnel report as revised, passes 3-0. Agenda item 7.05 is action to approve our coach personnel report. May I please have a motion to approve agenda item 7.05, approving our coach personnel report?
I move to approve our coach personnel report as revised.
Second. Vice President Miller motioned and Director Pendergraft seconded. Do we have any discussion? I will call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
The approval of agenda item 7.05, approving our coach personnel report as revised, passes 3-0. And that brings us to agenda item 8.01, which is our board inquiry tracking system. Try saying that 3 times fast. Do we have any updates, Superintendent Hansen?
I do.
Oh,
Yeah.
yay.
I'm really excited. As President Hall knows, we've created a magnet, and this fall plan on an update from PATH, from Michelle Smart, with combining with our teaching and learning program for an update on high cap programs.
We're extremely excited about that. And that brings us to agenda item 9.01, which is adjournment. So this meeting is adjourning at 7:14 p.m. Thank you all so much for joining us. If you have a question and would like an answer, please make sure that you reach out to us by email, or you can stop by and drop your information with Mrs. Wheeler. Just let us know what your specific questions are, and we'll make sure that you get answers right away. So thank you, everybody. Have a great night.